Welcome back to Newsmaker Live, and we're discussing the cost, consequences. We need to add that, and also, you know, the how common diabetes is in our society. And during the break, we were just running some figures, and I want to bring Perseus in, you know, in that discussion right now. In terms of the cost of treating diabetes and the complications of diabetes and hypertension, I'll allow you to share with us how expensive it is to treat one person.
Okay, dialysis. Okay, I get dialysis done 3 times a week, which is Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Cost effective. Monthly bill at dialysis, just including my treatment on dialysis, is average 2,000 to 2,002 on a month. That doesn't include medications. Medications for me, which is 2 weeks supply, I spend like $350 for a 2 week supply. So we're talking about a month, like we did about $700 in just medication for dialysis treatment.
Right, and the dialysis is about $2,200. So we're looking at $3,000 already
just
for the month.
Dialysis. Now, if you're hypertensive, like I am as well, there's a cost to hypertensive medication. Right? Now, plus I'm a diabetic, there's a cost for diabetic medication as well. So probably my monthly bill to my mom and my parents must be like $3,500, $4,000 a month.
You know, and I mean, we're talking about this, but then, you know, we need to look at the implications of this, because sometimes we make excuses for our people. You know, it might be more cost effective to buy fast food than it is to buy a proper meal. You know, sometimes we're too busy to prepare a good meal, a home-cooked meal, right, with the basic food groups, you know, and remain healthy. But at the end of the day, in the long run, it's really not worth it when you're paying $4,000 a month or $3,000 or even $2,000 or $1,000 a month in medication and treatment.
Which is why we figured that this show would have given us an opportunity to look at diabetes, not from the usual perspective where we look at treatment and we look at management and we look at symptoms of diabetes and we talk prevention. We wanted to look at the talk of prevention from the concept or from the context of how much this will cost you. And so the more cost-effective approach would be to prevent diabetes, prevent hypertension, because by preventing them, then you can defer that cost, that astronomical cost that would be your monthly bill for treatment of diabetes and hypertension and their related comorbidities or complications. But persons, very often we make decisions within the context of now. So it is easier, it is faster, it is cheaper, for example, to go to the roadside and purchase a soft drink as opposed to purchasing a healthier option, or even making your drinks at home, or preparing a meal. And while we're talking cost, it's not just cost in terms of finances, but because we're rushing to get to work, we're rushing to get the kids to school, and so you don't have time to prepare a meal. And so the time factor is also a cost that we keep in mind. And so it's so much easier to see, well, here's $5, you could buy something at school, as opposed to getting up earlier at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock if it needs be, to prepare a healthier option that your kids could take to school. So by looking at it from that perspective, bringing in the cost factor, where we're able to say, well, this is what the evidence shows, that a simulation of cost for diabetes indicates that an individual could spend as much as $89,000 to $90,000 a year just for the treatment of diabetes, hypertension, and renal failure if you're accessing care within the private sector. If you're accessing care within the public sector, that cost decreases to about $30,000, $27,000, $30,000. But there is the hidden cost, because you're spending $30,000, but it means that the government is subsidizing your care by as much as maybe 70%. When government subsidizes healthcare by 70%, it means that government now has to pump money into healthcare that they could have been putting into some other program that benefits the wider society. For example, our education policies, maybe giving more scholarships, for example, expanding tourism to create employment. What is the opportunity cost that we're losing out on when we continue to practice those unhealthy behaviors, when our health-seeking behaviors do not improve to allow us to take more responsibility for our own health?
Now, Perseus, you said you were diagnosed 22 years ago, and as Lydia is saying, 70% of the cost that you identified there is subsidized by government. You only pay 30%. Your 30% amounts to between $3,500 and $4,000 every month. Every month, okay? So when you do the math, you're looking at close to $10,000 every month, and probably more than $10,000 a month
for one individual.
For one individual.
And we're just talking about one of those symptoms of diabetes,
now,
just renal failure.
And you're a young man. I'm looking at that in terms of family and situating yourself. I mean, if you were to take a mortgage from a bank, you would be able to pay that back very easily if you did not have those complications and if you did not have that commitment for your health, based on, again, as we were discussing, the choices that we make earlier in life. I'm still going back to the message. How do we get people to understand these seemingly common sense arguments?
By being more vigorous in our approach, being more aggressive in terms of getting the message out there, by partnering with media houses, for example, to get the airtime, to get the message out there. Sometimes we think, oh, diabetes again, hypertension again, but we can't stop, we can't let our guard down, because the implications for the individual, the implications for countries is astronomical. Healthcare, if you have an unhealthy population, how are you going to be able to develop as a country? Who's your workforce? Your human resource, if it's affected in terms of ill health. And with diabetes, persons who develop complications sometimes are not able to work. If you're looking at the complications of diabetes, you're looking at loss of vision, you're looking at loss of mobility loss, you're looking at renal failure that requires you to be on dialysis 3 times a week, and so that's time lost from work, productivity loss. We're looking at significant losses for the government, we're looking at significant losses for the individual, significant losses for the family.
Let's go back to a policy, a government policy that was implemented a short while ago, the VAT. And there was an argument by Dr. Stephen King, former CMO, Chief Medical Officer, for VAT to be imposed on some of those bad goods, the salt, the sugar, and everything else that is causing our people to be sick. Now, I'm sure that both of you heard the arguments and stuff, and from your perspective, what do you make of those arguments?
I think Dr. King had a very valid argument. It wasn't an argument that was done in isolation. It's an argument that has been supported by evidence. The literature suggests that if we were to increase our taxes on tobacco, for example, by merely 25%, that cost alone would be able to allow us to cover most of the expenses within our health sector. If we look at increasing, taking salt reduction policies, for example, or increasing taxes on foods that are unhealthy, for example, soda. If we increase taxes on those, and we can assign those taxes specifically to address issues related to health, then we're able to defer a lot of the, we're able to secure funding for those interventions that we would need. We're able to secure funding for us to be able to take a more aggressive approach in addressing diseases like diabetes and hypertension. I think that presents us with an opportunity, because when we look at healthcare financing, how do we finance healthcare? Healthcare is financed through general taxation or through insurance, be it private or community or public sector insurance policies. And so taxes are very important. The VAT presents that opportunity for us to be able to collect taxes that we're now able to pump into health.
So did we miss an opportunity then? Because, I mean, all those opportunities presented, but then none taken.
I don't think it's a missed opportunity. I think the discussion continues. This is not a one-time effort. We continue to grow as a country, we continue to grow in terms of our governance, we continue to grow in terms of our management. The discussion continues, and when you have persons now advocating, now that we have that, advocating for how it is that we can now look at this implementation and tweak it, modify it to address certain issues. For example, how we finance our healthcare system.
Mm-hmm. I mean, going back to the habits, you know, we're always rushing, you know, and then, you know, we ask people to walk, you know, engage in physical activity.
Right.
But, you know, sometimes people are engaged in a lot of physical activity, but they don't engage in that activity in the way that they should. You know, is it time that St. Lucians on a whole need to slow down? We're becoming too developed too quickly, so that we cannot take stock of where we are and look at where we need to go next, or where we need to be in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, where we want to be, you know, as far as a country, as far as our health, as far as education, you know, and all the social considerations that we can give.
Well, just to expand on that point, I find the country, a lot has been done in terms of exercising and stuff, but it's just not about exercising, it's also changing our eating habits. You know, we doing one just exercising, saying, yeah, I'm exercising 5 days a week so I can't get sick, and then as soon as they leave the gym, they go back and eat the soft drinks, drink the soft drinks, and eat all the bad food. So it's just like you're fighting a losing battle. Mm-hmm. You know, so there again, we still need to just educate. It's just not only, it's a continuous battle. Like, I can't wake up today and say, okay, I'm going to control my sugars for the morning alone. This is a 24-hour job. I need to monitor my sugar 24 hours. So it's just a continuous battle.
You know, and a lot of us are irresponsible. I mean, I have to group myself in there as well, because, you know, we believe that it can't happen to us. You know, we're healthy, we're living life, we're enjoying life, you know, there are no symptoms to talk about.
Right.
But, you know, what lies beneath is what is really scary. And every time I host a program like this and I speak with people like you, Perseus, and I speak with some health expert, you know, it just gives me the chills, because I'm just thinking, when will it happen? You know, if I continue to engage in such dangerous behavior, it's like having a time bomb strapped to yourself and just walking
waiting
around, you know, having dynamite and playing with matches around it.
Yeah, you bring in a very interesting analogy. Even this morning I was speaking to my mom about it, and I told her, when I go to those health fairs, when we attend those health fairs, you see persons who are coming in to be screened, and they're walking up to be screened for diabetes, they're walking up to monitor their blood sugar, but they have a soda, they have a soft drink in their hand, or they have some sweet, some jam eating. And I told her, it's like persons walking with a gun. It has one bullet, 8 chambers, and they keep clicking. Eventually, you're going to hit the jackpot. And that bullet the hammer is going to hit the bullet, and that will be it for you. So it's almost as if, do I have it yet? And so we need to move away from that approach and say, I am making sure that I don't have it by screening, but I'm also taking all of those other actions that would prevent me, that would ensure that the next time I get screened, my results would be just as good as it was the last time. One of the other things that we need to begin to do is to take that message not just to the general public in terms of the adults, but to take it to the children. Sometimes we tackle the adults whose habits have already formed, and so the horse has left the barn. And we now need to begin to engage younger persons, children, in the discussions on healthy behaviors. They're not too young to learn, because our behaviors are formulated as we grow. When a child reaches 7, 9 years, it's almost too late for you to begin to talk modification of behavior. So we need to address it from very young.
Yep.
When you take the message to the schools, those kids are now able to go back to the homes and say, well, mommy, we had somebody came in today and spoke to us about, so you know I should not be going to school with a soft drink, or it would be better if you gave me water, or it would be better if you prepared juice from home. Very often I have my niece at home, and it's always the teacher says, and when the teacher says,
right, that's
then
it.
that's it.
Yeah.
No matter what I say, the teacher's rule is golden. Children have the ability to help us in terms of addressing and getting that message to the homes.
We're going to take another break right now, but when we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Also, we'll be taking your calls. So stay with us on Newsmaker Live. We're discussing a different aspect of diabetes and hypertension, the cost of it. And from what we have discussed so far, it is amazing, shocking, mind-boggling why we continue to live as we do when the cost is so high. Stay with us.